So I'm going to try to go through these as quick as possible. Now, I recognize these are drafts, so there's still things that you're working on, but I'm hoping that this will help not only you if I'm going over yours, but by looking at other stuff people have done, this may give you some ideas and some things that you know what to expect that I'm going to be looking for. All right. So again, take this with a grain of salt. Don't get butthurt over it. I'm just going to go through and kind of point out some of the things that I think are really working and some of the things that you may want to fix. All right, so I really like a lot of the stuff that's happening here. I like the color choices that you're using. I also like the title. I think the text is a little too heavy on this side, and I think this solid color needs to be broken up somehow. Also, I would play around with trying to be careful about doing straight line cutoffs around the neck. It's really making it look like they're decapitated. Maybe expand these photos in the back so that they extend maybe all the way out to say somewhere like this entire page, having that fill up because there's some really interesting, fun things that are happening behind there. As far as this side, yeah, this one definitely needs a little bit more work as far as details. You've put a lot of effort and energy into showing these pictures, but they're really, really, really tiny. So you may want to see what you can do to pull that out and make that larger, and then also replace the text with actual article text. You're going to want to break this up into columns as well. This is too long of a single column. I would do maybe 2 to 3 that are there. All right, let's take a look at the next one. Okay, I like the opening spread on this. I think the color choices are really nice. I think this is solid. I think the text here might be a little heavy still. And then the byline on this side, maybe do something to make this a little bit more subtle, or maybe pull it down below, or do something so it doesn't draw as much attention. Black on white is definitely really, really strong, so you're going to see that more. I like the font choice that you've used. I think that works well. What you may consider doing is maybe include, instead of just 2 pictures, because right now you've got this one that's got kind of a cool Polaroid type feel, maybe include like 3 across the bottom instead of just 1. That'll help to kind of break it up just a little bit. Over on this side, I like what you've done with the headings and stuff. You may even make these a little bit larger, maybe even pull in a darker version of the green. It's possible you may have already done that, but not quite sure looking at it from this distance. The other thing is you may want to play around with some of the spacing and stuff here so you can eliminate the single line of stuff that's happening right there. And then with this, I like the image. I like the images here. This box piece is definitely interesting to work with. It's just these lines right here either make the pictures a little bit smaller or make these a little bit bigger, or put a stroke or something around the outside piece there. All right, let's take a look at the next one. Really strong opening. I like the color choices that you've used here. I think that works out really well. I would play around with, instead of using the word page, put the magazine name in there. You might even trim down some of the text that you're using on the front page so you can move this down. A lot of white space down here, not as much up here. Maybe center that below. Over on this side, I definitely want to add some more color and stuff here. One of the things you may want to play around with as well is right now there's a lot of empty space down here at the bottom. So maybe extending the text down or doing some kind of graphic or something in this general area. And then be careful about what you've got. You've got your 6 columns set up, but you've spread this one across more than this one. So I'd probably break this up into 3 columns instead of just the 2. It's just you want to have even lengths of columns. So either do the 2 here or split this up into 3, but definitely add some more color and stuff there. All right. I really like this opening spread. I think that works out really nicely. You may want to play around with the fonts, though, to make this a little bit more visually interesting, because this reads almost like a caption as opposed to a title. So I'd want to lean towards having something that's a little bit bigger. Same kind of thing here. Instead of having all of the photos tucked in at the top with the same gap here, maybe you're going to put a photo package together instead of having the white space in between all of them. There's some definitely really interesting, cool flat layout pictures that are here. Maybe changing the size of them may work a little bit better. And then doing something to fill in this empty space here is a little heavy. You're also going to need to put in your folio. You're missing your folios, and then use a real heading. You need a pull quote and the... totally lost my train of thought. You need to put the pull quote in there. All right, nice opening spread. I really like the strong visual image there. Really cool use of headline fonts. I like that. That's really solid. On this side, also really nice. This is coming together really nicely. I like the inclusion of this piece here. The color you may want to play around with a little bit. I see that you're using it here, but one of the challenges is as soon as you do stuff black and white, which is really nice, you've included this one yellow, but then what happens is this piece right here, because it's red, and then this piece here that's green, your eye definitely gravitates towards that. So it's almost like I want to do something to bring that in. Maybe even including like a stroke, like a gray stroke or something around here, maybe a way to not make the transition line quite as sharp. Really like this call out. I think that looks really nice. This is coming together beautifully. All right. Excellent. Nice strong image. I would trim down the amount of text on your opening, on your starting spread. Right now, this looks like it's the second page or the second spread of an article as opposed to the starting of an article, especially when it's combined here. I like the variety of the different images and stuff that you've used. You want to be careful about your column width, though. This one looks smaller than this one, which looks smaller than this one. So you want them to be even. You want to play around with putting some colors or something in the background here just to kind of pull this together so it's not quite as empty. I like that you're bleeding the picture all the way out to the edge. I would bleed the picture all the way to the spine here. But definitely with this one, I would rip all of this stuff out, maybe do a couple other photos at the bottom and a big giant title or something that's there. Another thing you might do is if you flip this to the other side, because he's facing this way, it's looking off of the page. If you put it on the right-hand side and you put the main title on the left, it'll have it look like he's looking towards the title. All right, nice. I like the strong image, the black and white imagery and stuff works really nicely here. You may drop the date that's down here since you've already got actually it should be the name of the magazine as opposed to the .com. So change the name up there, maybe reduce the amount of text that's here and maybe extend the photo all the way out to the edge and just go really, really large with the kind of cool effect on the title. And then play around with the different layouts and the ways to organize this. So instead of it looking like there's a picture at top, text, picture, text, picture, text, picture, text, mix it up. Put these at the bottom, see what it looks like. Put all of these on one side, see what it looks like. You'll need to have your pull quote in here as well. All right, nice. I like the collaging. I like this imagery. I think that works out really nicely. Good title piece here. Good fun inclusion of different graphics and stuff. I like this then and now. That very interesting opening. I like that. Down here, it does get a little funky with the white line. So I'm wondering if there's a way to be able to do something with that. Maybe it's shifting it down and putting another white line across the top just to create some kind of balance between the two, or bringing this all the way down and then doing something to make those pieces stand out slightly. On this side, really like the cleanliness of this. I like the inclusion of this. The color's a little funky because I don't see where it's necessarily fully tying into. It might be coming from here, but it's such a small amount. You may want to play around with making this font a little bit bigger or utilizing the color. Maybe it's a darker version of this pink, something just kind of pull that in, and then doing something to pull the text a little bit further away from the edge. As soon as you do this dark background, it's okay to kind of cheat in on the columns a little bit to give yourself a little bit more space, and then maybe even centering that. Since this has a background on it, it's a really interesting call out that's saying, hey, pay attention to me. So you can stylize this as if it was a graphic, and then play around with your text wrap so there's not that big gap there, and there's a little bit more space along that side. All right. Cool. I like the graphic. I think that works out really nice. I'd play around with doing maybe a more interesting font, something that's got that playful kind of feel. My wife is addicted to this game, so I would definitely see if you can find, something like that one. Do something a little bit more interesting to incorporate that kind of style. Maybe it's just find a slab serif font that looks similar to it, put them in separate text boxes. You can probably recreate that one directly over here. What you may want to do with this one also is expand the amount of the photo all the way to the outside edge and this center edge so that it creates kind of an anchor up here at the top. For your subheading, I'd recommend keep the subheading away from your pull quote. Maybe put it down over here or something just to make it look a little bit more visually interesting and not have it compete as much with the pull quote that's here. As far as this part, I'm not sure what's happening with this little gap that's down here. I would address that. And then see if you can get these to where these subheadings are just a single line instead of multiple lines. So you may want to reword them. And then be careful with the columns of text. I haven't gotten into this yet. We're going to talk about this more on the final revisions. Is you don't want to end any of your paragraphs with one word. And you're going to want to play around with the spacing so that there's an indication of a paragraph start. So either a couple spaces in front of that, or an actual amount of space between the previous paragraph and the new paragraph. Nice. All right, cool looking opening. I like the big graphic that's set up there. I think that works nicely. If there's more room, you may play around with shifting this mountain off to one side versus having it dead center, and then play around with doing something a little bit more interesting with the title. I like that this is here and I like this is here, but I think this part, since this is further to the left and this is stronger contrast, you start to lose the title. So I'd want to go really, really big with the title and maybe do something fancy with the font or the colors just to draw more attention to that. You're going to need to also include the byline for who this is written by, and you may want to play around with the columns so that they end at an even amount of space, because right here, that empty gap there is a little, draws my attention a little more than it should. On this one, you may want to include maybe some photos or something, some smaller pieces here, maybe somehow. I like the separation between this. I think the white background works out nicely, and I like your pull quote, but definitely play around with the spacing and stuff, because here there's no space between the paragraphs, here giant space. All right. Okay, cool image. I really like the strength of that image. I would go a little bit stronger and bigger with this just to really draw more attention to it. I can't tell if you have folios on there or not. I would definitely play around with setting up the folios. On this side, really nice images again, playing around with it. I would play around with the size though. This font and this column length is much shorter than this one, which is much longer than this one. So play around with those. And then don't have your pull quote be in the center of the magazine. It may get folded in on, and that will be a little funky. For this piece here, I'm not sure why it's at an angle. You may want to play around with seeing if you're going to have it at that angle, there should be a reason for it. So play around with that a little bit. Don't know why I made these so small. Really clean opening. I really like the look of this. That photo is really powerful. I like the way that you've got the colors and stuff set up here. I think this works out nicely. That part of the K gets a little funky. I'm not sure. It just my my pickiness. I'm trying to find something to point out, but yeah, I think there's something weird with that K, but not the end of the world. What you may end up wanting to do with something like that is maybe right align it so that it's right aligned up here. By pulling that off of the tree, it'll maybe not draw as much attention to that. So maybe if this part's B is over here and this whole thing's kicked over so that it's kind of lined up, kind of over on this side, you'll end up with a shape that looks like that for the B kind. That might be, I don't know, experiment. Really love what you did back here. This part looks really nice. I like the pull quote dropped in there. I think those look good. Yeah, this is looking really solid. I can't tell on here if the folio might be a little strong and then a little weak there. I can't kind of tell because of the color and stuff that's on there, but keep an eye on something like that. Really strong images. I like the colors and stuff here. I'd kind of experiment a little bit with balancing this. Maybe see if you can split this image up. Maybe put him below, him up there in the text, or vice versa. Pull him down, put the text up there, just to split this white column up a little bit. And then do something to maybe pull in some of the blue. Maybe it's a blue background, like just this top portion, or maybe put some stroke around the outside of this to be able to bring in some of this particular color. Or maybe you place this picture again, but only include, like, say, that portion without his arm. So if you were able to take that, you could duplicate that and lay that in the background. So you could reuse that photo. Let me know if you have questions on that. I can help you with it. All right. So nice variety of images. I think that's nice to have the variety of images. What I'd want to do is experiment with this even more. Put some kind of solid color behind the entire thing and then have those floating on top, or have one big central image and then those three pieces below, so that you would have something like big giant image right up on top, and then the series of those other photos maybe down below, or in like a a bar of photos down here to show off the different face masks and stuff. So I think you could probably find a few more photos and be able to really make that thing pop and stand out. For the columns of text, be careful. I've mentioned it with the other ones, and you may not have seen that or known that anyways. The columns. So you've got 3 columns here, but then one long one here. I would keep them even and do something to kind of play around with getting the photos to help break up some of that text. Oh, really cool. All right. So I like the way that you've kind of gone for some variety of different images instead of putting them all in one spot. I think that's nice. I'd probably pull the pull quote up a little bit higher. So maybe it starts up here just so it doesn't kind of leak out. Because what's happening is you've got this nice text wrap that's happening, but it kind of leaks out down here. You may want to shrink Steph Curry's name a little bit smaller so that the quote is the big thing and his name fits all on one line. So you could do that even in a different font if you wanted to. You could pull that font in or maybe that font just to have some contrast between him talking and then who it's attributed to. For the column length, same thing I've mentioned on a few of the other people's. Just make sure that they're the same width, especially on a given page. Right here, you've got them as a single column. This is a double. That's a double. So I'd kind of play around with those. And then maybe doing something again to break up the color, or maybe it's a stroke around here or something just to kind of break up some of the blue. And then over on this side, I would play around with now that you've got most of the layout pretty well structured, let's do something really, really heavy and strong with the Dynasty one. Maybe it's doing something in Photoshop for a text effect. Maybe it's doing something in Illustrator for the text effect, just to make that really, really pop. Maybe pull in some of the yellow that's for the Golden State Warriors, or maybe something with the blue, or just something that really pulls that in, or maybe you incorporate like like the trophy or something to really make that thing pop. All right, so yeah, I really like a lot of the stuff that you've added in here. I think the PC Gamer piece works. It looks like it is from the Gamer. What you're going to want to do, though, is I would include, instead of that logo, why don't you include the logo from your magazine cover? Doing that will help to make it stronger. On this image, I would check to see if you've got a little bit more room on the outside edges to shift this one way or the other so that the line is not cutting straight across her face. It's not so bad if it's across her arm or over on this side of the arm, but with it being dead center, we run the risk of those things folding in on themselves. For this side, what I'd recommend doing is your columns are not lined up. So here, this one's shifted down, that one's shifted up. The G drops into the letter. I'd really want to get that out of there. Maybe make that all caps to be able to pull that up, and then give yourself some more space around these pictures. You might even pull the pictures all the way out to the edges just to give a little bit more visual interest. Watch where your columns are ending. This one's below this one. This one's touching the photo. This one's above the photo. That one's above the photo. And then what you're going to want to do is if you're going to have this box as a call out, similar to the King Kong thing that was there, you're going to want to put some kind of title or something in there for some reason to show that this is something special. If it's not, then take the colors and stuff off and make it a single column, and then adjust all your spacing and stuff that's there. Okay, I'm going to continue this in a second part because I have a feeling this video is getting really long.